come on. You just wait. You have no idea.
It's been a while since I've been on a podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Going to be great. Hello and welcome, everybody, to Uncommon Wealth, the podcast that you love, I love, we all love. It's a new name, new facelift, rebranded. Uncommon Wealth, that's our brand. And we chose wealth very strategically because we thought being rich, I'd rather be wealthy. And for us, it's so different. And so wealth is all the aspects of your life, not just your finances. So here at Uncommon Wealth, we really do try to pour into you, see how you're gifted, and then we try to use your money to get you to the ultimate end of where you don't ever want to retire.
Yes.
So Aaron Kramer, you're on the show, I'm on the show, but we have another person on the show. Not only do we have another person on the show, it's a whole new name, we have video too. Holy buckets, back girl.
Here we are.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to get our guest on the show. I can't wait to unpack this story.
This is going to be fun.
Politician.
Yeah.
You just stop your mouth right now. Here we go. Sarah Trone Garriott. She's an Iowa State Senator for Waukee, of all places. West Des Moines, Clive, and Windsor Heights. So a couple more. And she is an ordained minister serving as coordinator of interfaith engagement for the Des Moines Area Religious Council. Man, we've got a lot to cover. You have any children?
I do. I've got 2 kids.
Okay, 2 kids and a mother. Holy cow. Welcome to the show,
Thank
Sarah.
you.
Yes. All right, so first, this is the first politician that we've ever had on the show.
Yeah. It's going to be fun to unravel this.
Yeah.
So excited for it.
How did you get here?
Yeah.
I don't think of myself as a politician.
I like that.
My dad's an auto mechanic. My mom's a nurse. No one in my family's ever run for office, and I never planned on running for office either.
Yeah.
But there are all these times in my life where there's an issue that I want to work on or a need that I feel called to address.
Yeah.
And there are these different roles that I get to take on in order to do that work.
We're going to be friends, Sarah. I can tell you that right now. Instead of sitting back in armchair quarterbacking, you're like, no, give me the ball. I want in.
Yeah, but like, where's that time? Like, so you went into school to be, ministry. So
Really?
Yeah. So like, I mean, here you're gonna go.
We got to unpack that.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Where did you go to school? Where did you graduate?
So I actually went to college in northern Minnesota. I wasn't planning on leaving northern Minnesota, so I went to a school just down the road.
Yeah.
The College of St. Scholastica in Duluth, Minnesota. Little private liberal arts school, but it wasn't necessarily the right place to go for a history degree. That's what I was studying. A lot of people there were doing physical therapy and nursing, so that's really what it was known for. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I generally knew that I was interested in history. I thought maybe I'd want to teach, maybe I'd go to law school. But I graduated with this I just didn't know where I was going.
What did you graduate with?
So I graduated with a history degree.
Okay.
I finished in 3 years because it was important to get it done quick.
Yeah,
I had to pay for school myself.
Yeah. If you don't know what you're doing, get it done quick.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Well, and my parents said, they wanted me to get a technical degree. They wanted me to become a nurse or get something where I could get a job. And I said, no, I'm really interested in these topics, but I don't know what I want to do with it. So I knew I couldn't get a job with a history degree. That is what I've been told over and over again in my life. So after graduation, I joined AmeriCorps. I was an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer for a year in Gallup, New Mexico.
Okay.
And very different from northern Minnesota. I was one of about 15% Anglo. That's what they call white people in town.
Anglo?
It was mostly Navajo, and then somewhat Hispanic, and then Anglo. And I was working for a legal aid program on a domestic violence project. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go to law school. So this is how I can learn about that career. And what I ended up finding was that there were a lot of problems with religion related to violence against women. And so I talked to a lot of people who had been told by their faith leaders, this is your cross to bear. God is punishing you through your husband.
Oh, wow.
Don't leave because it's against God's will. And the church was really a barrier to people getting help. And so I thought, well, maybe I can educate faith leaders on how to be better at what they do.
Yeah.
And so I did a conference for faith leaders on domestic violence. And that kind of put me on a path to thinking about ministry.
Sure.
Okay. Wow.
Dude, that's really good. Here's one. You were barking down the right tree. Because it's like, so I'm super plugged into my church. And hearing the stories of how leadership in churches have been like, let's just push this under the rug, how damaging that is.
Yeah.
And they just have never been equipped to be like, no, there's got to be a better way.
Well, and the first faith leader that I reached out to in the community to say, hey, would you help me plan this conference? He said, why would we want to talk about that? Church isn't where you bring your problems.
What?
And that didn't feel right to me.
Something seems off here.
Yeah, that didn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
So I was like,
For sure.
oh, come on, just humor may be part of the planning. And so he helped with the conference, and at the end of it, he said, now I see why this is important. It was happening in my community, and no one ever trusted me enough to tell me.
Very good. There you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, okay,
Good for you not to like to punch him in the face.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of wanted to. Let's just be honest.
I was 21 years old, so I was like, hey, great, I'm glad you learned something.
Kill him with kindness, Sarah.
Yeah. So then you went to ministry school.
Well, not yet.
Okay.
Keep going.
So
Don't rush us. Don't rush us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went back to Minnesota because I thought, well, that was my plan, always to return home.
Yep.
And I started working for a program that assisted victims of sexual assault.
Okay.
And again, lots of religious issues I was running into in that program. And so I applied to graduate school thinking, well, maybe I could go learn more about my faith community, about Christianity, because there were so many folks having really negative experiences with their church. And I had a friend say to me, thank you for being the only good Christian I know. And I said, I really don't know what it means to be a good Christian. I grew up in the church, but couldn't articulate that.
Right.
And I said, I know there's good things in my tradition. So I went to graduate school to figure that out. And then
Where at in graduate school?
I went to Harvard Divinity School.
Oh, whoa.
And
Cool.
the last day of my orientation before we started classes was September 11th.
Oh, wow.
So again, there were all of these heavy issues
things.
that were happening, and the campus is really diverse. So we have people from all different religious backgrounds and folks who are not religious.
Yeah, right.
And so I ended up working a lot with the Muslim students on campus because a lot
Very
of folks
cool.
were feeling there was a lot of animosity towards the Muslim community. And so I organized some events for the students around Ramadan, which is a holy month in Islam.
Huge thing for them.
Yeah, and it was a really great learning experience for me. And I met a bunch of folks who were becoming Presbyterian ministers who took me to their church in South Boston. And it was this great experience of really organic community where everyone mattered and it was doing important things. And I'd never experienced church that way. And so I started thinking about the possibility of becoming a minister, but I wasn't quite ready yet to do that.
Yeah.
And so after graduation, I thought I'd go back into the nonprofit world, but it didn't work out for me. I was waiting tables. And
non-profiting.
Yeah, because I
non-profiting
I was not profiting. And I ended up working as a personal assistant for this wealthy family, and it really wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I made a bargain with myself and with God, I guess,
there
saying, okay, I'm going to explore this ministry thing. So I spent a year in an educational program to learn how to be a hospital chaplain, which is something that a lot of ministry programs require you to do. Mm-hmm. And I was in Philadelphia. I worked in this very busy inner city hospital as a chaplain in residence, and had some really terrible traumatic experiences.
Right.
Yeah, the first night I was there, I didn't even know how the pager worked, and I had to baptize twin babies that were being coded in the NICU.
Oh, Sarah.
And it was really a hard time. Lots of difficult experiences, but I came out of that year saying, okay, I survived that. I can be a minister.
Wow.
I can handle that.
You could have gone one of two ways there.
Yeah.
Could have gone forward or could have gone backwards. Truly, you are getting thrown in with the hardest situations, and you pulled in hey, I'm doubling down on this.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And so I went to seminary in Chicago.
How old are you at this point?
At that point, I'm 26.
26, okay.
I'm 26. And there was a Lutheran seminary in Chicago that I started classes at, and I worked on the weekends as a chaplain at the Children's Hospital in Chicago.
Okay.
So again, some really challenging situations, some hard experiences, but it was one of the best experiences I've ever had for preparing for ministry or being in the current role I have is that my job is to walk around the building at night and visit with the nursing staff, the security staff,
Very cool.
the people who worked in the cafeterias, the parents who were awake all night, the
Right.
kids who couldn't sleep, and build those relationships and be really present for what they needed. And so then I built that trust. And they would call me, not just for the bad things, but for all kinds of needs. And then I was much better to be able to respond when there was a crisis.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of them.
Shepherding
at the
God's
Children's
people.
Hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
Shepherding God's people.
Yeah, and there were people from all kinds of different backgrounds. So,
Yeah.
you know, lots of different religions and cultures and folks who weren't religious. But through it, I was trying to help them navigate some really difficult times.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This is so good. Okay. You're married,
Yes.
correct? 2 children. Girls, boys?
Two boys.
2 boys. Oh, boys. Homies. Okay. So how long have you been married?
So my husband and I met in graduate school at Harvard.
Okay. That's what my next point was. Tell me how that interwove in the story of the relationship, and how did he support you through, man, probably some big tears, alligator tears at some point.
So my husband is incredibly supportive of me. As I was discerning, he was really open to what that could mean. If we
Right.
had to move somewhere for me to do school, we took turns while he was doing his PhD. We were living in New Jersey and Philadelphia.
Right.
When I wanted to go to seminary, we moved to Chicago.
Very cool.
And he understands that, you know, in my job, there are ways he can be supportive and helpful. And one of the congregation members referred to him as being like the guy married to the queen, where you just need to kind of
Smile and
not cause trouble.
right.
But it's a lot more than that. You know,
for sure.
he's a really great positive presence in my life.
Right.
And he's a great parent. And I certainly couldn't do any of the things I'm doing right now without him.
Right.
Because right now he's the primary parent who's holding it all together.
Yeah.
While I'm campaigning and working serving in the legislature.
Awesome.
Yeah, running hard. Okay, so you get you got your license through the Lutheran College, or you graduated.
Yep, I graduated. So we have an ordination process that kind of runs parallel to your education. And so my first parish was in rural Virginia.
Okay.
My husband
Going east.
My husband finished his PhD in anthropology.
Anthropology.
Yep. And
Seriously.
And he studies the American legal system.
Oh,
And so his first job was in Virginia. And so I had to restrict to the state
That
of
area,
Virginia
right.
to be somewhere near. But luckily there were a lot of Lutherans in Virginia,
Okay.
a lot of congregations. And so we ended up living 45 minutes away from his university so I could serve a parish
Wow.
in a really rural community. It was just a crossroads. And we were about 20 miles from the nearest grocery store.
Oh wow. So you're really out there. How
So-
many people in the congregation?
It varied.
17?
You know, our regular worship attendance was probably around 80.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So it was a good sized community and such a vibrant community because we had a rescue squad back there, the
Right.
volunteer EMS.
All right.
We had our own community fair every summer.
Oh baby.
Like 5,000 people would come a night to attend this fair.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
We had a very active community center. And there were quite a few churches. So there was always a lot going on in this community.
Yeah. Right.
But we were pretty remote. And it was a great place to be. But I was always Pastor Sarah to everyone.
Right.
And so that was tough too
It is.
because I was very much a part of the community, but at the same time we had no friends.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right. Real friends
Yeah,
that you can
'cause-
get down with. Right.
Congregation members, I'd hear, oh, they had a Halloween party. And everyone
Nothing.
was invited, but not us.
But not Sarah.
Yeah.
What's your husband's name?
Will.
Will. Not Sarah and Will.
So it was tough because we were of the community, but not really. We were never going to be from there. And
Yeah.
even people who were born 5 miles down the road weren't considered to be from there.
Wow.
And so a lot of the families who lived in that community had been there for many generations, like their great-grandparents settled.
Gee.
So
Isn't that interesting? Because you're part of the church, and so you think you'd be brought in.
Yeah,
Part of the
yeah,
community
you're
so
in the
quickly.
family.
Yeah.
Not so much.
You know, there's always it's a different kind of relationship that you have with people.
It is.
You have to have good boundaries as a pastor because you're there to help these people and be supportive of them.
Right.
And yet at the same time, you can't really go to them to have them meet